What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Round 24 preview. I'm Victor, back with my co-host Charlie. We took a week off.
Yes, I'm
No
back.
more weeks off, no more vacations or lack of.
You're working.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it a vacation.
But we're
So yeah,
back, and our scores have been very bad, so maybe the podcast will make our scores better. And maybe I'll make your
yeah,
scores better too.
yeah.
So, how did your Round 23 go, Charlie?
Yeah, I have returned after my couple week hiatus, doing work. But yeah, I last week I was able to watch. I came back on Saturday night, and I could actually do a little bit of my or edit some of my team. And right when I got back, I ended up overthinking it. I had Sean Johnson goal on my bench, but after the first game when he had two, and the second game was away to Atlanta, I figured that there was no way he was going to keep a clean sheet, and I was correct about that. So I put in Eloy Rom from Columbus in. He was only like .7 more than a 4 mil goalkeeper, and he ended up with a 1. 6 less than Sean Johnson, who had 5 against Atlanta. So that was pretty great. He was the highest scoring goalkeeper in the week. Benched him, minus 6 points there. I was able to check the Timbers lineups. I had Morera in my team, didn't play. So all 3 of my bench players came in, who were Figueroa 4, Craniale 2, and Tomas Martinez 7. Not great there. Ziegler had 4. Awful. Valeri had 11. I had 3 players who had above 10 points, which were Valeri, Abear, and Bella. I captained Abear, who had 14. Of course, Vela scores more and gets 17 when almost everybody captains him, which sucks there. Pozuelo had 4. Manotas had 8. Luckily, I couldn't check lineups, so I didn't see that he wasn't starting. Came in and score anyway, so that worked out somehow. But I've been just slowly dropping because I've been only able to do my team for 5 minutes last few weeks, and unable to check lineups. So I've dropped like crazy to 740. I think this is the lowest I've ever been in the last 5 years I've played MLS Fantasy. So, and Tinnerholm only didn't play the first game. I couldn't check lineups once again, and he ended up with a 4. So, everything
Still not
sucks.
bad considering there were no clean sheets for any game this week.
Yeah, true. But I'd rather have a guy who played twice. And my total budget is down to 115.3. I'm not sure what it was last week I was here, but I'm pretty sure it probably was more. I think I've been dropping like crazy. So I am back, though. I'm able to watch every game this week, and I will come back.
That's the positive attitude we are needing, especially after this week. Somehow, Carlos Vela, it doesn't matter who he plays, he just somehow gets more points than the logical double game week picks of
Yep.
Haybear, and I'm going to go Ring just to save myself because I captained him. He ended up with 11. I looked this morning. He has 11. So
that wasn't even
he
bad.
ended up with 11 times 2, 22. I had 4 guys over 10 points. I had Heel. For some reason, he does better away from home than he does at home. He had 14. Haybear had 14, and Vela, of course, with his 17. I forgot to change Struna out of my starting team. I meant to have him on the bench. I didn't do that. I thought Toronto were actually going to have some urgency to try and win the game, so I had Altidore and Pozuelo both doing absolutely nothing. I had Richie Larea as well, who won a penalty, and then they reviewed it and said it was outside the box by maybe the slimmest margin I've seen in a while. He had 5, and I had Atuesta, who had 9 for pretty much doing nothing. Atuesta type things, I suppose, and I kept Sean Johnson. I'll take the 7 points. 5 points against Atlanta, even though he gave up 2 goals for a goalkeeper. I'm fine with that. Yeah, but the one thing to talk about, which still baffles me, is how there were 0 clean sheets. There was a game where every team scored a goal this week.
Not just scored one goal. There were a lot of goals.
There were goals for fun.
And 5 threes and 3 threes.
And they were goals scored by people that not many people had on their fantasy teams because they mostly had Houston and NYCFC players.
I think this is a usual trend that throughout the years that later on in the season, I think there's always more goals and less clean sheets. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but I'm pretty sure it's consistent over the years.
Who knows? Alright, let's get into our round 24 picks. Tough week this week.
Big double game week.
Big double game week with teams you don't want to be having double game weeks with.
I disagree. I think there's a lot of good teams with double game weeks this week.
Alright, we'll start us off.
Well, first of all, Minnesota, I think, have the pick of the bunch for games. Home Orlando, home Colorado. I'm just not sure really what way those games are going to go. But in goal, I have Vito Mannone. He's my number one goalkeeper this week. I'm willing to fork out the 7.8 mil for him. I mean, the problem with Minnesota is that you don't know who's going to play for them. They've had a very congested schedule, same with as well as the Portland Timbers have, who are the other team that I think are the ones to pick from this week. But Mannone's not going to get rotated. He's going to play for sure. I think he's worth having this week. Then my second defender is another pricey Minnesota player, and it's Ike Opara.
Oh.
Once again,
okay.
somebody. I don't know who's going to get rotated for Minnesota, but I know Ike Opara is not.
Well, he did. So. He did not play on Saturday. I don't know if that was injury or yellow cards, but he did not play.
I think he got rested.
Which, if he did, then all right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got rested. It's worth picking him up. They had so many games that he needed to rest, and he got that. So now he's all ready to go probably for the next 2 games. They're both home as well, so travel's not an issue. I think it's worth forking out
and they
the
need
money
him.
for him.
They need him after getting
they
5
do
goals.
Need him. And he's solid when he plays. He's like 4 minimum, even if they give up a ton of goals. And then I've got 2 Kansas City defenders because I don't know who to pick from defensively this week.
Wow, okay.
I don't know who to pick from just because you don't know who's going to play. RSL are going to be in turmoil. They just got their coach fired in a pretty bizarre fashion, which is very hard to validate picking. And they have 2 home games, but they're rough with home LAFC and home Seattle. So I'm avoiding them. I'm avoiding. I have no no Galaxy defenders just because I have a lot of midfield. Yeah, I want their attackers. So Kansas City are the logical last option. So I've gone with Matt Beasler and Graham Zusi. Zusi's an offensive weapon, could produce something there. And last week in the Dream Team, that was the only defenders who were in the Dream Team were people who scored or got assists. So I've gone with Zusi. I have Matt Beasler then. He's not going to get rotated. I think he's a safer pick at 6.4, not too pricey at this point in the year. So I'm him. I got him. And then my last defender is Jorge Moreira from the Timbers. Rested last week. Should play both games this week. I really like him as a fantasy option considering how involved he is offensively for the Timbers. So that rounds out my defense. I've got no switcheroos this week. I've just got all 4 mil players on the bench just to be able to afford the players I want on the field. But yeah, that rounds out my defense.
That is quite bold, I must admit.
Yep.
So I have a switcheroo, but for my keeper, I also have Vito Mannone. I think he's bound to get a clean sheet in at least one of those games. I don't know which one, but he's going to get a clean sheet in one of those games.
I don't know what's going to happen. I could see both those games just end up being goal fests, 3 threes all around.
Hopefully it's not, because I have no players on either of those teams. So my defense, I had Ike Opara in my team, but I couldn't afford anyone else, so I had to downgrade to Metaneer. If he plays,
did he play last week?
He did not. He did not play. So I'm almost sure he was on yellow card suspension. So if that's the case, that is good to play both games. And when he does, he's very much like Moreira. He doesn't defend. He just attacks and whips in the crosses. And the right backs are a common theme in my defense. I also have Moreira. Currently, I have my captain on him. We'll see if it changes.
That's crazy.
When he is at home, he thrives at home. If you look at what he's done, he is very efficient at home. Because I do not think there's a clear captain this week, unless you want to go with the Vela, which, I mean, it doesn't seem to hurt you.
Wrong.
It doesn't hurt you. The last 2 games at home, he's dropped a 5, an 11, and a 4, Marrera. Even if he drops any of those, I will take that this week.
You'll take a 4. Not sure about that.
I will. I'm thinking because against Chicago, the Timbers should win comfortably. Against Atlanta,
Yeah, you'd think.
you don't know what's going to happen. But
Atlanta's good now.
he's my captain now.
Come back.
It's a rematch of the MLS Cup, which the Timbers lost. But yeah, Marrera, hopefully, since he didn't play on Saturday, he will play both games this week. And my last starting defender is Ruan. He came on as a sub in the 90th minute, so he should be fresh and ready to go for these 2 games. And when he does play, he's just like Marrera and Metzanier. They're quick and they can get those bonus points offensively, not as much defensively. And my defender on the bench for a switcheroo, just because he was the only one I could afford, is Xavier Arriaga. I don't think he's going to get rotated because Seattle do not have much depth at center back with Torres suspended and Chad Marshall not even playing anymore. So I think he's going to play both games. Even if he drops a 5 or a 6, I consider that a success for someone that's only $5.4 million.
Yeah, I think he's probably gonna play. I don't see many others.
His matchups are horrible, but
yeah.
Just bonus points is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, not bad for their value. Let's get into our midfielders. Yeah, I've got 4 pricey midfielders in my midfield. Actually, except one, who is Ethan Findlay. Once again, you got to worry about the rotation for Minnesota, but Finley's played like last 10 games, and it seems like he's the least likely to get swapped out. He's got 3 goals in his last 2 games. He's been on fire. I think he's worth picking up this week at only 8 mil or 7.9, and they got the best matchups. And then my next 2 midfielders are a duo of 2 Galaxy midfielders, and that's Jonah Dos Santos. Cheap at 9.1, I think, considering he finished at like 10 or 11 something last season. He'll just consistently drop those 5, 6s, 7s. And then with like 14 or something, playing home Dallas and home Seattle, he'll probably have the possession. And then I have Christian Pavon. This is my differential pick right here. He had 4 points against DC, but he had like 5 chances created, which is solid and should be feeding Ibrahimovic, especially at home. And home Dallas and home Seattle are not the best matchups, but they're at home, where the Galaxy are a lot better than away. So I have him, and I think so. Are they? I know Ibrahimovic is when you look at his goals.
The Galaxy as a team, they've not been good anywhere they've been playing, but you have to pick them now. I think. If there's ever a time for them to go up the standings, it's 2 home games.
Yep. I agree. And Dallas, I don't trust. Away, at least. I know they just don't have the talent. I think they have those youth players, but I don't know. I don't trust them away, so I'm betting against them. And then rounding up my midfield, I do have Diego Valeri. He's been playing out of his mind, getting a ton of points every week. 11 last week, an assist and a secondary assist, 2 attacking bonuses, and another bonus. He is incredibly consistent. He has a low floor. I know he had 2 against Minnesota a couple weeks ago, but before that he had 13, 7, 8, 9, and 2 home games where the Timbers have a fortress. So, yeah, I have Valeri. I really like matchups, both home, and the Timbers need the points, so I doubt they'll do too much rotating at this point, considering that they're below the line and they need to make up their games in hand with wins. So that's my midfield. Okay, and can we talk about how Christian Pavon has a player face in the first 3 days?
It's also not really a player face, it's a box. No. It's a boxed picture.
It's still better than Brian Fernandez, who still is just a silhouette. And that really bothers me. But yeah, that's my midfield.
Alright, I went a little different. Not much, just a little. The first player I put in my team this week was Michael Barrios. Call me crazy. 8.9 million, and for some reason his crossing this season has been immense. So I'm trusting him even with his horrible matchups that he is going to somehow salvage what could be his worst week in the past 8 game weeks has been 4, which was 2 weeks ago at Orlando. But other than that, he's dropped a 15, a 5, a 6, a 5, a 6, and then he dropped 3, but that was followed by a first double game week of an 11, and then an 8. So I think that he is almost a must-have this week over Paxton Pomykal, who hasn't been getting as involved. He's playing, but he hasn't been getting as involved as...
He's been playing deeper since they've been having Jesus Ferreira also in midfield with,
which is very attacking.
Higher. Yeah, exactly. And they have to push Pomykal deeper into like the number 8 to the number 10.
So, yes, Barrios, my first player. Second player, Jonathan Dos Santos. You have to have him this week. 100%. He should be owned by every single person this week. No matter what your budget is, you need to have Jonathan Dos Santos in your team because he's guaranteed at the minimum, I will quote this, prove me wrong, at the minimum he'll get 10 points this week. And that's a bad week if he gets 10. My third midfielder is Nicolas Ladero. Horrible matchups, like I said earlier about Arriaga. He has horrible matchups, but he's Nicolas Ladero, and for some reason, every time I pick him, he does nothing, so I wouldn't pick him this week. But 2 away games. Seattle have been struggling mostly defensively. He's going to be very questionable for me to pick, even if he'll play the second game for sure. I don't know if he'll play on Wednesday, but if he does play on Wednesday, that's where I think he can have the breakout game. RSL, new assistant coach, I should say. We'll see what effect Pecky getting fired has on the players, because if, say, Pecky was managing, I would have had Savarino this week, who's been on fire, but I don't. But maybe RSL just prove everyone wrong and win big. My next midfielder is Diego Valeri. 2 home games. If he plays both games, he's going to feast. If he doesn't, it's going to be unfortunate. He'll definitely play against Atlanta, but he will not. I don't know if he's going to play against Chicago at home.
You'll be able to check lineups.
So. I will be able to check the lineups for that one, but hopefully he plays against Chicago, because that's where his breakout game is going to be. And my last midfielder, the new boy from the Galaxy, Christian Pavone. He's on my bench in a switcheroo at the moment. Not quite sure what to think about him yet. 4 points in his first game. Seems like he has the upside. If I had the budget, I would have gone with Felipe Gutierrez. But other than that, Nico Gaitan would have maybe been my last option. Alright.
Yeah, I was also thinking about Gutierrez and Gaitan, but Gutierrez had 0 points last week and he missed a penalty.
And that's uncharacteristic. He usually somehow gets like his 7 or his 14.
Yeah, and Ladero, I wanted him, but he's expensive. Same with Savarino, it's like 11 something, and I didn't know he was that steep. So yeah,
he's had a good season.
That's why I slid on those. Yeah, yes. So yeah, forwards. My first forward is Brian Fernandez. I mentioned him earlier on. 2 home games. He was rested last week. He had a bit of like a tightness, I think, in his calf or something. But Savrise said he was back in training today, and he should play both.
Still has no player face.
Yeah, exactly. Still has no player face. That really annoys me. But maybe it's a good sign since he's been playing well without it. So he's my first striker. Double home games, should play well if he plays both. Watch lineups. And then my second striker also is rocking the double home game. It is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's been very hit or miss lately, but I think it's worth risking with a double home game. He had like 14 shots last week, which is bonus points if nothing else. So I'm trusting in him. When you look at his home games, he had a hat-trick against LAFC, which was his last one. He had nothing in San Jose, but then before that, 2 goals against Toronto. And then before that, a goal against New England. If he's going to do something, it's going to be at home. So I think it's worth taking the chance for him. He's not as expensive as he used to be at 10.8. I'm taking him.
Alright, is that it?
Yeah, I only have 2 strikers this week.
I only have 2 as well. My first striker is Zlatan. If you were to say who should I pick, would you say I should have Ladero and Zlatan, or Zlatan and Brian Fernandez?
I would say Fernandez because he's got the better matchups. But Ladero's probably the safer option.
That was a dilemma I've been contemplating with for the last 2 hours that we could do our teams. Yeah, so I have Zlatan, and then on my bench in a switcheroo, you're gonna laugh at this one, probably. I have Sporting Kansas City's own Eric Hurtado at 5.4 million. Now that is differential, I would say. Nemeth is yellow on here, and he also is in Peter Vermees's bad book right now for some reason. Gerso got hurt in the 6th minute. Shallowy got a red card. I think Hurtado, even though he's coming off an injury quite recently, I think Hurtado gets at least 140, 150 minutes.
You just gotta hope Crosby
maybe
doesn't get a game.
Maybe Hurtado can maybe find a goal or something, because I have no other option at 5.4 million. I try to get Angelo Rodriguez in the team because Mason Toy isn't playing anytime soon. But
how much is a Bovasi?
6.1. 6.2, yeah. So
yeah.
it's a hard choice. Like, you go down and you look, Corey Baird, maybe. I mean,
Brace last week.
He's 4.8 million. I mean, if I'm feeling bold, I had in my first draft of my team, I had Rui Diaz. Then I saw Brian Fernandez at 2 home games, and then I switched everything around. But yeah, this is.
And didn't get Brian Fernandez.
I don't even have Brian Fernandez anyway. So, yeah, Eric Hurtado, differential. What is he owned by? He is owned by 0.21. More than I expected.
I'm shocked it's that much.
I'm shocked it's that much as well.
But yeah, I think at Bobus would probably be a better value option if you could fit him in this week. He'll probably play both. He usually does, whether on the wing or up top. And it's going to be hard this week, considering that there's a lot of risk of rotation, considering it's this late on into the season. There's start to being the factor of tired legs into the team. So make sure you check lineups, guys.
Who's your captain?
Diego Valeri. I'm a Timbers fan.
Really?
He's been on fire. Yes, if he plays, but he's got to play both. If he doesn't, I'm putting in Blanc. I'm captaining him instead.
So you're not going with Zlatan, and you don't have Vela in your team.
Zlatan's a risk. I have no Vela. I still go by matchups when I'm picking my team. When he plays away Arsenal, which theoretically is not a good game. But
theoretically, and Carlos Vela don't like to cooperate.
Yeah, that's very true. And Arsenal just had the coach fired, so you don't know how they're going to react. But I don't think it's worth risking putting a 14 mil player into my team with a single away game week when there's this many double game weeks. But saying they would probably drop 15 points and I score all my strikers. So
yeah, I'm keeping my captain as Marrera for now. We'll see if I'm crazy or not. I've captained a defender once this year, and it didn't work out too bad. So
I think I've captained Tarek.
I captained Tarek as my only time,
and I captained Jack Elliott one week. He had like 17.
So it could be the way.
Good company. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.